Hello, my name is Pooja. Welcome to a new episode of Around the World. In today's episode, we will try to understand whether Vladimir Putin's attitude has really softened towards the Ukraine war. If yes, then what are the reasons behind it? We will also try to gauge the extent of support provided by the US to Ukraine and how is it hurting Russia's plan. Let us know about the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war in brief. When the Russia-Ukraine war started, then Russian President Vladimir Putin surprised the entire world with his claims and intentions. At that time, it was believed that Russia will occupy Ukraine very soon, in the similar manner it had occupied Crimea in 2014. But more than 10 months have passed since the war started, and the war is still going on. It implies that Russia has not been able to succeed in its plan so far. In such a scenario, Russia has given some indications, and on the basis of these indications, it is being claimed that President Putin's attitude towards the Ukraine war seems to be softening lately. Putin, who did not listen to the whole world at the time of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, has even talked about peace negotiations. Therefore, the question is being raised whether President Putin is losing the Ukraine war. Furthermore, Putin, who had earlier refused to the ceasefire, has announced a 36-hour ceasefire. This ceasefire was announced from Friday to Saturday midnight. Russia claims that this ceasefire was announced during this period so that the people could celebrate Orthodox Christmas. Therefore, it is believed that Putin's attitude towards the Ukraine war is now softening. When Russia attacked Ukraine, Vladimir Putin's attitude was quite rigid. Putin was repeatedly warning Ukraine not to become a member of the NATO. On the other hand, Ukraine was also not paying heed to Russia's warnings. As a result, Russia attacked Ukraine. Thereafter, many countries of the world appealed to Russia for peace, but Vladimir Putin did not consider any appeal. Many countries, including the European Union and the US, also imposed harsh economic sanctions on Russia. Russia had to bear the brunt of these sanctions on a very large scale. Even then, President Putin's attitude did not soften. But now Putin is looking softly on the Ukraine issue. Putin has talked about establishing peace through diplomacy. He has stated that Russia doesn't intend to escalate this military conflict and wants to end it. Now the question arises that why Putin is trying to end the Russia-Ukraine war. As we have already mentioned that Russia annexed the Crimean peninsula of Ukraine in 2014. Russia succeeded in annexing Crimea without making much effort. Therefore, Putin hoped that the Russian forces would capture Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, in a few days. But as time passed, Putin began to realize that he had made a mistake in his assessment of Ukraine. Basically, Putin felt that Ukraine was a militarily weak country. He also perceived that Western countries would not support Ukraine either. Even during last year, when the tensions between Russia and Ukraine were at its peak, all the Western countries except the US were almost silent. Moreover, Putin also perceived that the way the US has returned from Afghanistan, in the same way it will not support Ukraine. However, only a few months after the start of the war, Ukrainian forces made a strong comeback. They retaliated and recaptured a large part of their land from Russia's control. On the other hand, the US has also stood firmly with Ukraine from the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war till now. Recently, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the US and met President Joe Biden. Zelensky's US visit was termed as successful. Notably, the US has provided financial assistance of $50 billion to Ukraine so far in this war. It includes all types of support, from humanitarian aid to economic and security support. The US has also decided to supply the Patriot air defense system to Ukraine. Patriot air defense system is a system that works with the radar system and can intercept and destroy any type of high-flying aircraft or missile attack. In addition, the Russian army and Putin are facing embarrassment as they are being defeated by the Ukrainian army on many fronts. For all these reasons, Putin's attitude has softened towards the Ukraine war. Furthermore, Russia is continuously weakening on the economic front too, as about 30 countries have limited trade with Russia since the Ukraine crisis. Experts hold that Russia's economy has almost come to a standstill due to all kinds of economic sanctions. Russia's GDP has declined by about 11%, imports and exports have declined by 30%, and inflation is rising continuously. Economic experts have informed that the Moscow Stock Exchange is almost finished. Before the war, Russia was the second largest exporter of energy. European countries were the biggest importer of Russia's energy. But now the European countries are importing less energy from Russia so that Putin doesn't have the economic freedom to continue this war. Experts are of the view that this strategy of hurting Russian economy is working. Both Russia's income and jobs in Russia have decreased considerably due to the shock on the economic front. In addition, the Russian army suffered huge losses in the war. According to media reports, the number of dead and injured Russian army personnel is about 50,000. This number is more than the number of soldiers killed when the Soviet Union fought the war in Afghanistan during the 1970s and 1980s. The US claims that both Russia and Ukraine have lost 1 lakh soldiers each in this war. Hence, Russia doesn't want to prolong this war. However, with the war still on and the forces of Russia and Ukraine still fighting, it remains to be seen when the war will come to an end. That's all in the episode. Let us note down the question based on the story. Financial and military support provided by Western countries to Ukraine has weakened Russia's position in the war with Ukraine. Evaluate.